We will call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. Dr. Welly, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance.
Thank you. Look for a motion to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That will take us to reports. We will start with the audit presentation.
We're pleased to have Brian Eckhoff with us from Westbrook and Company. He's going to share a presentation on what the audit that his firm completed for our school district. And I will point out to the board, you've had the slide deck for a few days. We did put an amended version of it in there today because draft was a little pronounced the way that we formatted it. You couldn't read anything behind draft, so it should be easier for you to follow along. The other thing is in your packet, we've added another attachment for you. It's a more detailed report and required communication from the firm. And those were just added today. I didn't bother sending you a text. You're going to have time to look through that again before you are asked to approve the audit. It's not an action item tonight. Brian will kind of explain why there's going to be a little bit of a delay, but we'll bring it back in November or December most likely for your approval. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brian. Thanks.
Good evening. I'm Brian Eckhoff with Westbrook & Company. A little bit different this year with the draft stamped on it. So our federal side, yeah, it's on. I think that one's on at least. Okay, all right. So it is stamped draft this year. So our guidelines for the federal program audit, which is your, because you're over $750,000 of federal expenditures, you're required to have a uniform guidance audit, also known as a single audit. Our guidance on that is called the OMB Data Compliance Form. It's usually released in May every year, and it has still not been released this year. So we are not allowed to release a single audit until that is released. If you go to their website, they released the final draft months ago, and there's a big asterisk, and it says you cannot release a single audit until this is finalized. There's no timetable on when they're going to release this. We don't know. So basically, your audit's going to sit with draft on it until they tell me I can release it. If we have to do additional work because of the new wording in the data compliance supplement, we'll do it. If there's changes, I'll come back and talk to you guys again. If not, draft will be removed, and we will just finalize everything. You guys will vote and approve it at that board meeting. Okay, so on our presentation, on the next slide, you'll see the independent auditor's report. You can see that it says it is presented fairly. So this is a clean audit opinion or a good audit report, exactly what you want to see in your audited financial statements. The next slide will be the statement of activities. During COVID, we talked about how everybody was making money on food service. As you can see, we are now back to our world of losing money on food service. So food service this year cost the district about $527,000, and your community services was about break even at about $17,000. Next slide will be the balance sheet. As of June 30th, we had right at $31 million between the four funds, almost 14 in general, 9.5 in debt service, and about $8 million in the capital projects fund. And down below are the fund balances, and the next slide is actually going to give you the breakdown of what those are. As you can see in the general fund, we've got about $106,000 worth of scholarships. Under the assigned column, food service, when we were making money on food service, DESE requires you to track that balance. As you continue to make money, that balance grew. Now that we're back to the world of food service costing money, that balance will be gone here in a year or two. Student activities, that's your clubs or organizations, the balance that's in their accounts. And then the $12.8 million, that is your day-to-day operations of the district. It's shown as unassigned just to be for the district. Debt service fund, that is always shown as restricted, has to be used on debt service. Capital Projects Fund still had about $860,000 of unspent bond proceeds, and then the remaining balance in the Capital Projects Fund is always shown as assigned because that has to be used on future capital projects. The next slide will be your revenues and expenditures. This year we had 73 million in revenues and 94 million in expenditures. However, if you look at the bottom in the red box, the general fund, that's about as close to break even on the size of budget that you guys have, $100,000 increase. Debt service fund decreased $4 million paying down debt, and then the capital projects fund decreased by almost $8 million. And if you look up above, you can see facility acquisition and construction was $7.5 million. So various improvements made to buildings. So overall, had a decrease in fund balance of almost $12 million this year. Next slide is going to be a summary of your debt. Started at around 72 million, ended at around 62 million. So paid off about $10 million worth of debt this year overall. And the next slide is going to show you all of the lifetime payments on the bonds. No balloon payments, just your standard annual payments all the way through 2038. And then the next slide will be your payments on your direct borrowings, which those are all technology rated or technology related. So 3 years worth of technology payments there. The next slide will be 5-year comparison of revenues. It doesn't look like a whole lot, but the fourth one over is your federal. You can see the influx of COVID dollars where it went up to 7%, and now we're back down to 4%. So we're back down to normal federal funding. The COVID funding is gone. You can see that local dollars make up about 55% of your overall revenues. Next slide is going to be a 5-year comparison of expenditures. You can see salaries and benefits are about 79% of your overall expenditures. They've always hovered around that 79 to 80% mark. So staying pretty consistent overall there. Just means that all of your expenditures are basically increasing at about the same rate. So the next slide will be a 5-year comparison of reserve ratio and average daily attendance. Reserve ratio this year decreased to 22.41. We still consider that a healthy district. However, if you look at the chart, you can see we've taken a steady decline for several years here. And your average daily attendance was pretty flat. It hasn't done a whole lot for the last 5 years. So something to keep an eye on is attendance is staying flat, but your reserve ratio is actually declining. With the uncertainty and funding and things like that, something you want to keep an eye on and monitor going forward.
And I will jump in that we are ready to level that off.
Okay. You want to elaborate or anything? You want me to move on?
No, I just wanted to point out to the board that that's already discussion behind the scenes that 22, 23% is still our desirable level. So for that to continue to go down would not be desirable.
Correct. In my eyes either. All right. The next slide is the report on state laws and regulations. While we're here, we look at your state laws and regulations, see if there's any violations, and in this report, we bring it to your attention, and you can see that it's fairly stated. So this is another clean opinion or good audit report, exactly what you want to see. The next slide should be the internal control. We will look at internal control. We don't give an opinion on internal control, but if we note any deficiencies, we bring it to your attention. And you can see in the red box, it says we didn't identify any deficiencies in internal control. The next slide will be the report on federal programs. At the bottom, it also says we didn't identify any deficiencies. So this is a clean report on the federal program side of things. And the next slide is actually going to tell you unmodified means clean opinion or good audit report. No all the way down says there's no findings, except the very bottom one. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then if you look, Child Nutrition Cluster and Title I, that's the 2 programs that we did all of our testing in this year. So that's where Kelly from my office spent her time doing her testing, pulling various information. And then the bottom one, did you qualify as a low-risk auditee? When they wrote uniform guidance, they wrote it for accrual basis financial statements, not cash basis financial statements. So you'll never qualify as a low-risk auditee. You don't want to change your financial statements to accrual basis, stay cash basis. It just means that we have to audit a higher percentage of your federal programs. And then the next slide should be none and none. So that's the clean side on the federal program side of things. So clean on the federal, clean on the state, a clean opinion. We had a couple of things that I wanted to bring to your attention. Do you have those? I think there's 2 things. One was first one on attendance, we did make a change to your attendance while we were here. Just bringing that to your attention there. And then the bottom one on the attendance is, this is the state auditors telling all of the schools that he's auditing, you should have some sort of procedures or policies in place to limit the time frame that people can modify attendance. So I've been asking all my districts, and right now, everybody's attendance software is basically open. You can go in and modify it however you want, whenever you want. So this is us telling you that you should put in some sort of policy or procedure to limit how often and how long they can modify the attendance.
And that work is underway. It is not resolved, but the second one is underway.
Perfect. So overall, clean audit, just a couple of minor things that make improvements for.
All right, very good. Any questions about the audit? We do have the other financials that we can go over outside of this meeting also, so.
Just a few quick questions, not related necessarily to the audit, actually. The scope of the audit is my concern. Done an excellent job here, I'm sure. But you're only auditing the financials, not anything that's all outside of scope.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
The scope is a financial statement audit. You have hired us to basically give an opinion on the financial statements on whether they are materially correct or not.
And you and I have discussed this in this forum in the past as far as having an internal auditor, and it probably doesn't make sense
Correct.
at this point. But I still have concerns around ensuring that there's testing being done. Is there an outside contractor? Your company doesn't do that, I assume.
Oh, we do.
You do. So like external control
Yeah.
testing.
Basically,
Okay.
it's called either, you can do it under a consulting agreement letter, or an agreed upon procedures letter. Consulting's more open, where if we get in, we can just basically do whatever we want. Agreed upon procedures, we
Yeah.
name what we're gonna do, and that's all we're gonna do. But Diana Klosterman is usually the one that we send out to do that. She's not on the audit team. She's outside of the audit world. She used to audit, but she doesn't anymore. So it's fresh eyes. She comes in and basically meets with you guys, and you tell her what you want her to do, and she'll come in and spend as much time as you want her to, diving through as much as you want her to.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for tonight? Nope. One of the things that we always discuss as far as with the board president and the audit team is what program to specifically look at. And this year, the federal programs were already required to be looked at, so that's the one they looked at. There wasn't any other programs that got looked at this year.
Yeah,
So.
we're kind of back to a normal audit post-COVID, so we kind of let the dust settle, and then we'll start turning things up again.
So, all right, very good. We appreciate you coming in.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, that will take us to the operations program eval.
We have Mr. Gary Getz with us tonight, Director of Operations, to share the program evaluation for his department. And like most of our program evaluations, this is a two-year cycle. So, Mr. Getz.
Good evening. It's good to be here. Been a stretch. So, first of all, for those of you who don't know me, I am Gary Getz. Been with the district quite a while, so it's good to see some of you again. We had a really good 2 years within the department. Some of the highlights I really like to focus on are the results of our external exam. Very few minor infractions we had this year. All of them were completed. We're looking really good. We work very well with the state inspectors and all of our teams that we bring in to do our outside investigations on all of our systems. The really big important thing is within the operations department, since I came in, just like the educators, we push to continue for our staff to grow and improve in their education. As you can see there, I brought something with me today. We just had our state conference. And when you read the section about the Gold Seal Award, this is what the custodians achieve for. You'll see the the 4 little stickers, and those are the classes. I'll pass this around so everybody can get a good look at it. Those are classes they take every year. Every summer, they spend 2 days in a DESI workshop class, going and completing and doing everything necessary. And then when they complete, they have to do an essay through the organization, and then it's reviewed by board to get their gold seal. This will make our 6th custodian just recently to get the gold seal. So it's a really big accomplishment. We're always very proud of our people attending that. And as you can see by the numbers that we have attended, it's very, very sought after. Our staff enjoy going just to see other custodians from other school districts. We are in the Kansas City regions. We go to St. Joe, which encompasses the whole Kansas City area. So it's really a great program, and we're proud to be part of it and have our people continue to improve. The other side of that is the next step from this is the core certification program from MSPMA, and that is a program that's another step up. It's an 8-course program, 4 sections in each course, and that is awarded at the conference as well. And we now have our next employee that has completed that, and it was Dave Fegans, has completed that, and that's basically a core supervisor certification program, and very proud of that as well. Some of the improvements we made over the last 2 years in the buildings, we continue to update and improve. Sorry, I get a little frustrated. My mind gets on me. We've continued to improve carpet and upgrade facilities interior through the summers. We had a really good project at Matthews this last summer, which anybody that's been in Matthews Gym, it was a huge improvement for that, all staff in that building and students as well. Very proud of that for our staff to complete that in-house. Another big project we did, if you have been over to the high school and seen the shot put and discus area for the track and field, that was all an in-house project that we worked with the coaches and the high school staff and brought the project to light and brought it together and completed. And we are hearing from other district coaches. Mr. Hart came to me the other day and said, you wouldn't believe, coaches are coming to us now saying, who did your work for you? What is it? The throwing area, we're top notch within the Kansas City area for our disc and shot.
Don't forget the javelin. You guys did that
The
too.
javelin as well. Yeah, the new javelin runway, it's amazing, the whole improvement and taking us to that next level to compete. So we're very proud of that. Some of the goals over the next couple of years is continue to push professional development, continue to support the district as we move forward with capital projects, and to do what we can to improve and better the district there. The leadership is always something we're striving for in the department to help push that. 3 to 5 years, just there again, to continue to make the district better in every way we can. You know, inside, outside, through staffing, through helping our staff grow within the buildings and outside the buildings in the community as well. So at this point, entertain any questions if you have anything.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks for coming in. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Getz tonight?
Yeah, just out of curiosity. First
Yeah.
of all, your team does a great job. So congratulations, great work. With that certification that went around, I'm just curious that training was through DESI, which means that the services that are provided by your team are different in a school than they probably are in a commercial building.
Correct.
Can you just give me a few examples of what would be different?
Yeah, some of the training that they receive there, if you paid attention to some of the smaller, it's over housekeeping, it's over facility safety, it's over ground safety. The housekeeping side of it, they learn proper chemical usage. You know, we do not allow chlorine bleach in our buildings. It's an unsafe chemical. When mixed properly and improperly, you can get phosgene clouds, and most people don't understand that. And with the chemicals we use, those types of classes help our staff understand the reason you don't bring outside chemicals in. What do you do? The management side of it helps our staff understand how to work with building level administration. And with DESI being involved is great because then they get to understand the educational side of the administration and how we should look at that from our side, you know, how to work and help and create a whole team for education in a building. And that's what some of the workshops really help us do. You bet.
All right. Any other questions on the evaluation or the direction we're headed?
I just was wondering where, I know in past years, we've struggled with numbers of custodian staff and that kind of thing. I'm assuming we're much better, hopefully, but probably
We've
not fully.
stabilized. I'll say that, we've stabilized. Currently, we just had a custodian, a night custodian at the high school resign for personal reasons, family reasons. He's leaving the state, which was kind of unexpected, so that kind of caught us off guard. But we're currently setting at 4 custodial openings. Last year, we averaged 5 to 6. The year before, we was 6 to 7. We currently have 4 applications on our desk that we're looking at and reviewing, and we've got interviews set up next week. So it seems to be we right around that 2 or 3 point, keeping pretty well level. Right now, the one building that we're trying to get really staffed is our early childhood facility because it has been without a permanent staff since the start of school. And that's one we're really pushing to get filled. We've got a great couple lady applicants. I think we're going to be able to get in it. So we're really pushing and hoping there. So, yeah.
If you wouldn't mind, so you're talking about some of your team that gets, goes and gets the extra training and stuff. Is there like lead custodians, that kind of thing at different buildings? And those are the ones that you kind of push to get the more training, or how does that work exactly?
We have a criteria within the district. First of all, you have to be employed with us for 1 year before you're allowed to attend the training. In good standings with the district for a year to even get to go to class. And then once you make it, like I said, the different levels you complete, we require that you have to go through the housekeeping first and the facility side, and there's a supervision class they have to go through. Completing all of it, I would have to go back and look. I think we've got a large majority of our department has completed all the classes. And then that next step is that higher level. I would say with every building having a building lead, without having it right in front of me, out of our 7 building leads, I think 6 have completed all courses and are in the Gold Seal level area. So that's the next step for all that. So, yeah, but there's a criteria to even attend it. And it's very well sought after. Everybody, I had one that didn't get to go last year because missed it by 2 months being employed. I was like, well, can't I still go? No. I hate that you have to go a whole nother year, but that's the criteria on it.
And I'm assuming that turnover in that field, is that quite a bit, so that makes it even harder?
Here lately, it has been. We've had some very good people leave us for other districts, but with the working with Dr. Gooch and our salary and you guys and helping us there, that has really slowed down our turnover. We're to a level now with our competitive salaries and just that known atmosphere within the district. We're getting retention. We've got one gentleman that is in Blue Springs now that's going to interview with us that wants to come to us from Blue Springs. So that's a win. We've got several that we have recruited from Oak Grove. So yeah, with all the changes that we've made, we're really doing well in our retention for staff and very, very happy with it. Very positive with it.
Thank you, appreciate what
You
you do.
betcha.
All right. Any additional questions? No? All right. We appreciate you coming in. Thank you.
Thank you,
Keep up
sir.
the good work.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's going to take us to new business. Look for a motion to add 1 elementary school secretary FTE. All right. Dr. Welly?
Yeah, we ask the board to allow us to add a second school secretary at Prairie Branch Elementary. Our elementaries all currently have 1 secretary, and our early childhood also has 1 secretary. We've known that this would be coming. The reason that it's happening at this October workshop and not at a more timely, proactive time of year is because we've had some increases in class sizes since the start of the school year to our 4th grade in particular at Prairie Branch. And we currently have a paraprofessional at that building who divides her time between helping out in the office, supervising in the cafeteria at lunchtime, and providing reading interventions. And it sounds like she does a great job at all of them. But so we want more time available to help with some reading support in fourth grade in particular. And so our creative solution to this is we just saw this as the opportunity to go ahead and add a second secretary position. And so what that will do is the current paraprofessional position can devote more time in the classroom, and we can solve another problem, because quite honestly, as the largest elementary school for a student population, they have a lot of parent visitors for lunch. And we want more and more parent participation. So when there's a lot of people coming and going throughout the day, we have security protocols, we have, our background check scanning in and all that. So there's just a lot of factors that it just seems like the right solution is to go ahead and move to a second secretary position. So this is not just for this school year. This would be moving forward for as long as Prairie Branch has this number of students or more. And moving forward now, we'll evaluate at what point the other elementary schools add second secretaries as well. But we want to start with Prairie Branch, and so appreciate you considering this on a workshop soon after the school year starts.
All right, any questions about this position?
I didn't, maybe it was above me, but I didn't understand the paraprofessional relationship to the secretary
Sure.
situation there. How does
Because
that-
we have a paraprofessional who is currently helping during the busy times in the office.
So that paraprofessional is doing both duties.
Doing both
currently.
duties, dividing, and so by adding another person, now we'll have somebody devoted to the office, and the initial position can be devoted to the classroom. So thank you for asking that clarification. And then Dr. Allen has worked with the principal to do a true division of duties. So they'll both be secretaries, and they'll both own certain aspects of office operation. They'll help each other in the other areas, but they'll each own something. So there'll be comparable positions.
All right, any additional questions? All right. All in favor of adding one elementary school secretary FTE, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Takes us to I would look for a motion to add one English language learner paraprofessional FTE.
Okay. We have 58 students qualifying for the program this year. That is up from 43 last year. So we knew we were pushing it, but in recent years, we try to run some tight margins on things. We don't know which programs are going to need extra help in the spring. And so until the kids are here and the needs are here, we're reluctant to add, an expensive solution to something. I will say that if, in evaluating for next year, this might very well be a certified position rather than a para position, but we already know what to expect if we were to post this as a certified position right now. And the team has decided that the most important thing is to get help sooner, and we can reevaluate for what's needed next year. So this is a non-certified paraprofessional position, and we would reevaluate the need to either replace this position with a certified position next year, or if the program continues to grow at this pace, it might be that we keep the para position and add a certified position anyway. Any questions that you have?
All right, any questions on?
Yeah. It's real easy for me to sit here and say yes and support all of these. I don't really understand the budget implications. So we've got three roles here that we're going
Yes.
to add, 3 new positions. There's a cost to that. There's also a cost if we don't do it.
Yes.
Can you help me understand what this is going to cost us?
Yes. What's our latest estimate? If this was a full school year, para position? Do either of you have that number in your head?
It's going to be going to be approximately $36,000.
So roll it up for me. We got 3 positions here.
$100,000.
So 100,000
Yep.
roughly.
Yep.
And
Total with the 3 of these, at this point, from, since we've had the start, I would say we're going to be probably 120,000 probably for the 3 of these for the remainder of the school year. However, that amount of money is an amount of money that we have budgeted, within our budget, new revenue this year. And there is, we, at the beginning of the school year, based off of the budget we developed, there was a small surplus, and I can't really call it small, but there was a surplus. And this request is within that surplus. Plus, at the time when we developed the budget, we were going based off of preliminary numbers for new revenue and stuff from new construction and the reassessment and things like that. And that number came in just a little bit stronger than we had budgeted for. So because of those types of, because of the tightness of the budgeting process that we do, this allows us the opportunity to add positions like this after a school year has started and still be in an okay position financially. That make sense?
yes, thank you.
Yep.
Just real quick, English language learner program paraprofessional. I can guess what that is, but can you just, for the record, let me know what
Yes.
is that
And
position?
we have 2 certified teachers now supporting the program, and we have 2 paraprofessionals supporting the program. I'm going to let Dr. Allen kind of talk about what the para's role is in that system.
So our specific need this time, it looks a little different at elementary than Miller High. We just happen with this new increase in population to have a lot of secondary students. We actually got an entire handful all as juniors. Well, we have 2 years to get students graduated, and they come in with 0 language skills. Not having an adult with them in class can make it a highly unproductive time. So really what this person would do would be sitting beside a student, following schedules as frequently as possible to help with making the learning accessible. So whether that's through translation help or context help.
So these are kiddos where English is not their primary language. Okay. just wanna make
Specifically,
sure
this
I'm-
need is, for our newcomers, which means our students that come in with 0 English.
0 English. Okay.
And that we just had an extra large number this year, and you never know. And so numbers-wise, they thought we were good at the start of the year. Then once you get to evaluate and see, the level of the student and what their needs are, they don't feel like we're providing the support that these students need at this point.
And this will be at the high school, this position?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
What's the ratio of para with per student ratio? Is it one-on-one or is it multiple?
No,
It's-
I mean, we've got, what was her latest, 53?
58.
58.
With 5, this will make 5 staff.
This would make a 5th adult.
Yeah.
So they literally run around and try to provide in the most, basically they run a schedule that varies. So we hit one particular class one day and a different class another day. Yeah, there's
and
no
is
way
it
to have
multiple
one-on-one.
different- Multiple different languages or?
Oh, yes.
It is.
Yeah. No, not necessarily, but they will use technology to help with translation. And they said sometimes it can be either the translation that's needed help or, the entire conversation in history today is on George Washington, but they've never heard of George Washington. So pulling the student out, watching a quick video on George Washington in their language to explain some context of what they are at least makes the content accessible, even if it's translated for them. And then at separate times, they'll do pull out and actually work on the English language. So it's a combination, really.
For our lower grades, like elementary and middle, do we centralize this program at one building so we're not running around everywhere, I assume?
We
No?
do, a heavy majority are at Snybar. That's where our program's held at elementary. We do have some parents refuse. Typically, that's based on siblings that they have that may have different levels of English acquisition, and so their kids are staying, say, at Prairie Branch, and they want the sibling to be at Prairie Branch. And so our staff, our ELL teachers are assigned to a particular building. For example, at Snybar, we have a teacher that's there full-time, but on Thursday, she travels. So we still go to try to provide services 1 day a week. The parents realize they're not going to get the level of service that they get. And when it's that situation, our teachers try to build capacity within the teacher, even more so than working with the student, because they've got to teach that teacher the skills to work with the students since they're not there all the time. So some of it is teacher PD, whereas when they're working with the students at their location, it's really working with the students, if that makes sense.
All right. Any additional questions on this item? Very good. All in favor of adding one English language learner paraprofessional FTE, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, I'd look for a motion to add one special education paraprofessional FTE.
This paraprofessional position would be working one-on-one with a student who has needs that are already identified, and would be supporting that student. Basically, a lot of what Dr. Allen just described to make the learning accessible for a series of students, this paraprofessional position would do that for one elementary student. So the team has decided that this, the IEP team has decided that this is an appropriate placement, and so our responsibility is to provide the resource.
Any questions on this one? And just for knowledge base, so when you're adding this type of a role, I mean, the range of need could be pretty great, depending on one-on-one para could be, you know, with a lower need child, and another one could be with a very high need child, just trying to.
Yes, that is true to a certain extent. There is a, sorry, were you pointing that one?
I wasn't, I was just.
She'll bail me out if I need it. There is kind of a window. There's kind of a trigger point in and out of a one-on-one para. So if a student gets to the point where even with the one-on-one para support that the classroom is not accessible, then they would reevaluate what other placement or what other methods they could use. And the idea is if a student is not yet on a one-on-one para situation, or they want to try to wean them off of a one-on-one para, then that they might have a shared para. So we do have some paras not assigned to just individual students, but they're assigned to a caseload of students, like what we do with the English Language Learner Program. So there's so when a recommendation comes to us, or when it's not even a recommendation, when an ask comes to us like this, we're confident in the program leadership, because they've proven it over time, that we know that if they've gotten to this point, it's not a decision that they've taken lightly. So it's a pretty easy one for us to bring to the board. And on the budget side of things, I'll kind of button that up too. You know, because we run kind of a tight margin, we do like to keep a little bit of a surplus in our June estimates on our budget, because we assume we're going to need extra hands somewhere, but we don't want to guess in May and be wrong and locked in, and now we're going to spend even more money fixing the problem. So we have kind of gotten in this cycle that we try to hold a little money, and then once the school year is underway, then we devote those resources to where they seem to be needed most.
All right, thank you. Any additional questions? All right. All in favor of adding one special education paraprofessional FTE, say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is for information and discussion, and this is the student recognitions at school board meetings. And
I don't mind starting it out,
Okay.
and then
go for it.
So the reason that we thought we'd bring this up is I don't remember the last time that we had a discussion with the board around how we decide how student recognitions come before the board. So our main, and then we'll talk about what the downside is of it and maybe a solution. But to date, what we've done is we look for state level qualifiers As I don't have to remind the board that when we have student recognition night, we pack the house. So we're really excited about what it's done for us over the years. But the downside, as you can realize pretty quickly, of state level qualifiers is it rules out middle school and elementary kids. And so, you know, we certainly don't want to double our student recognitions. The capacity of that I just feel like would kind of diminish the specialness of it and maybe the fire rating of this room. But I will admit, you know, we are deficient in recognizing our younger students who are doing remarkable things. So we've talked about it as a cabinet, and we thought, you know, is there anything as black and white as at the elementary middle school level as what we do at the high school level? And there really isn't. But what we are willing to do, if you'll allow us, is just use some administrative judgment around, you know, this is a particular highlight, and we can challenge our high school or our middle school and elementary administration to help us make recommendations and kind of filter some things. I do remember years ago, or over the years, we've brought elementary and middle school kids before us. We've had we had kids that won their stock market exercise that they did for class. It was really cool, you know. But the fact that I remember the one thing that we did several years ago, like, it just tells us that there's probably missed opportunities. So I just kind of want to give you the history on it. We didn't even always used to do student recognition, but we've been doing it now for, I don't know, 10 or so years. So we're really proud of that. But with that, I just thought this board really probably just needs to have a discussion and just see if the administration can take away something to kind of shape how we operate maybe differently moving forward.
All right. Any questions or discussion on this topic or ways that we might adjust it?
So I'm comfortable with the administration using some level of latitude to make the decision. I do think it's important that we have recognitions, but also that just we have connectivity with students in the different buildings. And so, for example, all of our elementary schools, to my knowledge anyway, have a choir. Having them come in here and sing a song, anything that connects us with, you know, we're here for the kids, and it's really hard to remember that sometimes. So having them come in, even if it's not a recognition, even if it's something like that, just so we can see the kids that we're trying to support and remember that we're working for them, I think is a good thing. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, in my mind, where they knock something out of the park. It's just got to be more interactions with the people that we're trying to work for.
Good, that's great. I appreciate that perspective.
Yeah, and I mean, to piggyback on that, I think there's so many different opportunities, and just I think the way that we've done things in the past, the board members aren't necessarily connected to what's happening in each of the buildings. And I think that would be a good way just to see and have that connection, whether it's, you know, kids with the robots or, you know, choir or whatever that might be between the different buildings. I think that'd be a great idea.
I love the fact that we want to recognize more students because, yeah, that's what we're here for. I would love the parameters that we go along with as well. I know, like elementary, there was a STEM competition that Snyabar knocked out of the park, and we recognized elementary there. I would struggle to say, let's invite you guys to connect to us when there are, and I know you use that as an example, but they do a choir concert twice in each elementary building. I think that is requiring another evening of a staff member that I don't know if we're saying, hey, we want to be connected to you guys, but you have to come to us. I'm not sure that's the right message we want to send. So recognition of the talent and awards and those types of things versus, I don't know. I'm open to conversation on that, but I just worry about another night out so they can connect with us versus that is happening. Just, I mean, we have all of our honor choirs singing at the mayor's Christmas tree lighting that we're having a board meeting during, which is our normal scheduled thing, and we can't control that. There's, band parent preview that happens on those Thursday nights as well, like a big community preview. So there's some things I think that we can reach out as board members too to make sure we're seeing those things. So I'm not sure I'm prepared for a performance piece, but want to make sure that we're still recognizing when we've got to that higher level. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see our kids do stuff, but I'm also going to take responsibility for that.
Is there kind of a master calendar of events that could go out monthly or something? Just kind of like, Dr. Willie, because you attend a lot of things.
Yes.
How do you know, like, how do you know what's coming up, that this is at 6, to your point, Sarah?
Yeah, it's tricky.
Besides muscle memory.
No, it is not muscle memory. It is one main resource is if you go to student activities tab on our website, and it'll take you to activities calendar, and it's pretty straightforward. Where I get confused is if I'm in a hurry. Sometimes I miss whether it's a home or away. So I have been in an empty gymnasium before, but
Wearing the blue.
but the good news is the gymnasium, maybe I messed up, but all I got to do is go out to the softball field and catch a baseball game or a softball game there. So it usually works out. There's always something going on. The elementary and the middle school, I'd have to think on those. I do attend some of those events, but I don't find them the same way.
How would the administration know? So, kind of what you were saying, Jared, just comfortable with the administration, I think, choosing what to highlight. How would you all know what rises to the level of recognition? Like, is it more community focus? Is it excelling at a competition?
Yeah, I think we would try to. I think we would try to do a variety of things. There are some things that happen that just lend themselves. Like we've got a thought on what we could bring even when you meet again in 2 weeks. But we got some elementary students that organized a community event. I think it's a perfect example of the type of recognition. I'm glad you brought up the STEM accomplishment, because really that's at the core of what we're trying to be about, in our academics. And we want to make sure that the things that are part of our vision of the district we're trying to be, that when there's examples of those things, we want to celebrate those and draw attention to them by bringing them before the board. There's a lot of youth accomplishments out there that I don't think would be appropriate to bring before the board. There are hundreds of youth World Series baseball champion teams. And as an example, there's tons of accomplishments that kids make, but that's where we need to be more selective. I think it needs to be closer to the core of the district we're trying to be.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think, Sarah, you made excellent points that I didn't fully consider. However, we are only the board when we're together in this room. And I go to a lot of events, as many as I can, but I'm just going as my kid's dad or as Jared. I'm not going as the board. So I think it's good as the board we see a lot of
I think
things.
I think we can come up with some creative ways that it makes sense to bring a performance before the board. Like I think we can figure that out without it feeling like that it's another thing.
And that was just
I
an
think it's
example.
mostly a recognition, but I think we can think creatively to find ways. It would just be one more example of how we can recognize kids.
I think another option, although our board is unique, would be that we would go to a school building while they're in session and see that performance, or see them, so they're not having to break out from another evening activity. That'd be another way to look at that. I know it will limit
Right.
some members, and I think every board has, some members that can't get out of work or whatever. So it's just another consideration that we'd have to look at.
I like the idea too that there would be criteria. With the high schoolers, it's state, right? They're reaching a milestone. They're doing something that's recognition worthy, and it's an honor. It's a privilege to be able to come and be presented before the board, and it's something to aspire to, something to look forward to, and strive toward. And you don't want to water it down by just making like, well, we got to bring every school before the board, or
Right.
but there's criteria, and it pushes them to strive toward. I think that's a worthy thing.
Okay, and we'll see, we'll open it up a little, test it, see how it feels, and then we can adjust again moving
I
forward.
agree. We definitely don't want to water it down. One thing I would challenge or idea, we recognize our National Merit Scholars at the high school level. I would assume that we probably have some pretty stellar kids on MAP test and it's still at elementary and middle. I think there might have been something at the middle school that an 8th grader could receive, or receiving a certain certain level for a certain number of time or something like that. That we could honor those students too. Academics is obviously our first priority. So I was just trying to think of, we definitely have kids excelling, and that would be another option too to think about.
We do have kids who qualify for PSAT, PACT, that they can do in I think it goes through Duke University or somewhere that they take in 7th or 8th grade. The catch is, I'm trying to remember if we actually get the results from that. When students enter high school, so from their scores in 8th grade, they can be selected to take pre-ACT in 9th grade, and we get those back, and there's an award that goes with that now. I was just at an ACT meeting, and they shared they're giving out certificates now to freshmen for their accomplishments on that, so I shared that with the high school. That was new. But I know just personally from having a student take it in middle school, I don't know if the school actually gets those results is the catch. But I get what you're saying. I think we'll talk with the principals then and just see, what their ideas are, and what I do know parents do a really good job of sharing major accomplishments, standout accomplishments with the principals, so they can share with the class or put it in announcements, which is a whole nother area tap. So it just kind of depends on what it is. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you talking about the schools? Oh, put it in their report to the board? We can put some significant, we haven't had this discussion with them yet, but it's a good idea. If we're going to bring them before the board, that's the thing is there there's a level that you bring them in person, and there's another level that they make the list for the board. We can talk through that with the administration and see, but I'll make note.
All right. Any other questions or comments on this item? It sounds like we got several things that we can look at and work through to try and figure out a way forward.
Yeah, that helps us out. Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is patron comments at school board meetings. And this one has been brought up just for reference to the potential of moving patron comments from our business meeting to the workshop meeting. And the reason for looking at making this move is typically there's really no option for patrons to make comments generally before a lot of action is taken at the business meeting. And my thought in moving it to the workshop would be that patrons that had input or wanted to have their input heard about items that were going to be action items at the next business meeting would have a chance to have their comments heard before a decision was made. That's why this is on here. So with that, are there any questions or comments to that potential move?
Are you saying moving them or adding
It
them?
would be moving. It wouldn't be adding. That was not the intent. It would be, we would have at workshops, the patron comments would move to that. On months that we didn't have a workshop or a second meeting, they would then fall on that main business meeting.
Would there, like, could we have both? Like meeting and workshop? Would there be any reason not to do that?
I would say that there's not a reason not to. It could be an option.
It's like providing feedback, and here's the other thing too, it's not like we had plenty of time to these meetings ourselves. So I would be in favor of having both, like just always having patron comments as an opportunity, and then it seems more like standard that we're always inviting that feedback. Your point makes sense as to moving them, so it's before we're about ready to make a decision that we've already kind of hashed out. So I understand that. I just think the more opportunity, the better.
Okay. Would there, something else that I believe we spoke about earlier, Dr. Welly and I, was in moving, if we went that direction, would we want to maybe limit the patron comments to agenda items? If we're gonna do them at both? Instead of just like open,
There, in the last couple of years, there is new policy language, new law and policy language that if a patron wants to get an item on the agenda, there's a process for that. So I think in the past, the board has said, we really want the board to be able to come and talk about whatever.
the
but-
patrons.
The patrons, but you know, there are other options now as well. If you wanted to open up opportunities for them to speak, but you really wanted to focus patron comments on agenda topics, you know, there's other ways to be heard too. So I'm not saying you should do one or the other, but I just want to make sure you know what your options are.
Yeah, I think that's a good point with the option of adding agenda items by patrons. It's always there if they didn't see something that was gonna be on there.
So I like the idea of the workshop, adding it to the workshops for the reason that you described. I don't know that we need to go tweaking the process because I think we're fixing a problem that currently doesn't exist. We have one or two patrons that occasionally come talk to us. It's very rare. There have been situations where we've spent hours on patron comments, but it's very, very rare. So I don't know that I would want to restrict anyone's ability to come and talk to us about anything school related at this point until we feel like it's become a problem and we need to start managing that a little more.
Any other thoughts?
When we I worry that if we were restricting it to really focus on an agenda item, that then if someone does come to talk and you have to shut them down, that's a bad look.
It doesn't look well.
And I
I've seen
guarantee it doesn't
several.
feel well. Like, I can't imagine that. So I agree, since it hasn't been a problem, I would think we could continue with what our practice has been. Yes, we know that they can get agenda item or, you know, items added to the agenda, but this is a pretty easy buy-in to give our patrons a chance. So I like it for the option.
All right. So sounds like everybody's on board with, well, I shouldn't say everybody. Sounds like two people are on board with moving it to every meeting. Are there anybody that is adverse to adding it to every meeting?
I would be fine with just moving it. I mean, we already have it once a month. We already have it, you know, and I don't see there being a problem with it being just just once a month, I don't think people are beating down the doors to have more opportunity to speak. So moving it to the workshop, because we recognize that would be a benefit, I think that's a good starting point. And then if we feel like, man, we're really getting a lot of these and we need more time, we need more opportunity for people to be able to speak, we could then add it to the, back to the, or it's twice a month. I just, once a month seems like it's plenty right now. I just don't know if there's the need for that, and we just shift it and make it simple. That's my thought.
Yeah, I don't object. I want everyone to have the ability to come at least once a month and talk to us
Right.
if they want to.
Okay.
90% of the time, we're going to skip right over it because nobody will have signed up. So I don't know that it's a big deal to have it on there twice a month, but as long as once a month people have an opportunity to come and talk to the board in one of our meetings, I'm good.
Okay.
There have been a few times at the board meeting itself where I think just the look. So if a patron comes up and expresses their concern on an item that we're taking action on 10 minutes after that, I'll speak for myself, most of the time when we're taking action that evening, conversations or information leading up to that meeting, my decision has been made. And if the public doesn't understand that, it almost looks like we're ignoring them. If they're saying, hey, hold on, did you think about this? And maybe it's new information, but that was the first opportunity that they had to voice their opinion. And then 10 minutes later, we take a vote. So I would be in support of the workshop patron comments to give them, whoever, time to hear the discussion, voice their concern that gives us added input before we make our decision 2 weeks later at the board meeting. Just so they're able to bring new information or a different viewpoint, and then we all have a couple weeks to think about that. Yeah, there's been a couple times where somebody's got up and said something. It's like, we're voting in 10 minutes. Maybe from a different perspective, probably from a different perspective. Great information. So just to be able to hear more input sooner in the process of some of these decisions, I think would be beneficial. Yeah, and I selfishly, I would have time to consider it for myself, and I think we all would. So to your point, is once a month adequate? Probably at this point, but then would the public feel like we're silencing them if they didn't have the opportunity at both meetings? To your point too, it's just kind of that. I don't want to ever do that either. So I'm undecided at this point. This is what I'm telling you.
I worry a little bit about anything that comes across that looks like inconsistency. So we have 6 or 7 workshops a year. So for half of the months, patron comments would be at the workshop, and for the other half, it would be at the business meeting. Business meetings are currently covered by our local newspaper, so not only are we promoting the business meetings, but the newspaper's reinforcing this is the happenings, and they'll report if there's a patron comment. They will sometimes mention that there was a patron comment. So we can change it, but I'm just saying the machine is kind of in progress on it. Now, if you simply said, I think it's only a problem if you flip, and maybe it's not a problem. I'm just, everybody who works the phones, if somebody calls and says, hey, if I want to come, people ask us all the time about patron comments. Now, maybe they don't follow through and show up, but we get asked quite regularly. And so whoever it is we have working the front desk, they know, oh, you want to come to a business meeting, that's when we do patron comments. So again, this can be an administrative problem. I don't want to make it the board's problem, but it's going to have to be really clear which months patron comments are on the workshop and which months patron comments are going to be at the business meeting. And so I just want you to have that in consideration before you make your decision. If your decision is to add patron comments to the workshop, you really, there's no action for you to take. The board, it's at the board president's discretion to put that on the agenda each workshop. I'm of the opinion that if you are not going to offer patron comments at all your business meetings, this first policy that's in your packet, we just need to tweak it, because it currently says that patrons will be given the opportunity for patron comments at the regular business meeting. So that's, I mean, we've changed policies all the time, but if it, depending on what your action is, we'll roll with it, and we'll support you moving forward.
All right. Well, any additional thoughts?
I think my final thought, hopefully, for you guys. Sometimes I think it might be hard to differentiate due to our agenda and what we're doing, the difference between a workshop and a meeting. A lot of the times they bleed into each other as to agenda items and timeliness of things. So that's the other reason why I'd be in support of just consistently all the time offering it, so that we're not gatekeeping it. Again, we don't have too many that do and take us up on that. I don't think it's a problem. But I just worry about, there are sometimes our agendas look pretty similar from workshop to business meeting. We do take action in our workshops as well. So that's
It's
the only
interesting
thing
you bring that up.
Oh, okay.
So it has gotten more and more back to looking like the same as a business meeting. I remember there was a time when it was less looking like a business meeting, and the goal will be to get back to that.
We have land purchases behind us, and hopefully we've got some emergency personnel additions behind us, so I agree.
Okay.
And the other thing I'll point out is when we post an agenda on a workshop, we don't yet post a draft agenda on the business meeting for 2 weeks later. So the patron certainly isn't going to know what's coming at the business meeting when they decide to come to the workshop to do patron comments. Now, they might be more likely to get a discussion topic on a policy issue, but there's plenty of items that only appear on a business meeting agenda. And then if they show up to speak on that agenda, I mean, maybe now it feels like their voice didn't matter, but at least they had a voice. But they would come to that business meeting and there would be no patron comments for them to speak to. Again, we could try whatever, and if it creates a new problem, then we solve a new problem.
All right. Well, we'll chew on this, and we'll figure out which direction. Because I have been looking through the policies, and we'll have to find it. I can't find it specifically where it says it is at the, like, current policy saying it's at the board meeting, but we can follow through on that.
Regular meetings of the board.
So with this, the way I read this is if they're going to put a agenda item on,
Yeah.
that is when it is going to take place.
Yeah, this is kind of the asterisk to that. You're right. It does say the board encourages residents to utilize the process for placing items on the agenda, but will also specifically designate time for district residents to provide public comments at regular meetings of the board. So it's a reference.
Yeah.
And so we could it just says regular meetings of the board.
Right.
So we're probably good.
And that's what,
Anything that you've scheduled ahead of time is a regular meeting.
right.
So we're probably, I don't think that's the primary issue.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And that's when I had spoke with Susan Goldhammer earlier. She had emailed me back. I'm not sure exactly what time, but it was later, and kind of said the same thing. If that was our policy language, then we wouldn't need to make any adjustment to the policy. So, yeah. All right, we'll table this for right now, and we can discuss it a little bit more, you and I, as far as what implications it has. The way I read the policy, and I think we just talk through it. We can
Yeah.
probably put it either way, so.
Yeah,
Right.
with pointing that out about the policy language, then it's probably fully at your discretion as the president. And then if there is ever a meeting, it's always a draft agenda. When there is a motion to approve the agenda and someone has a reason to add patron comments, that the amendment, the agenda can be amended in the moment. If we catch a meeting.
Yeah,
so
we
it
could
can
always
be
add,
amended to be added.
add that later.
I think it can. We'll double check. Usually when we amend, it's to take things off, but I think you can amend to add a patron comment.
Okay. So I'm gonna resend what my tabling. I think based on that, I think, just so there's clarity with the board here tonight, my intent will probably be to move it to workshop starting with next month. And we'll see how it goes. If we need to make an adjustment, then we can.
Very good.
But just to be clear, on months where we don't have a workshop, you would add it?
It would be on the regular business meeting night.
Okay, got it.
That's correct. Yeah, every month, there will be an opportunity for patrons to have comments.
Is the workshop's the first, it's the first
Correct.
of the month? So it would be patron comments would be at the first of the month or
Correct.
or
And then,
whatever meeting is that month.
that's correct.
Sorry,
The first Thursday.
one more point of clarification. We'd move to the workshop, which would be the monthly option, but not have it at the business. Is that
That's going to be the intent, but on months where there is not a workshop, a work session, it will be on the business meeting night. Okay, very good.
Very good. And we'll help make it as easy as possible for patrons to know the difference.
All right. That will take us to board policies. These are local review 2025A. This is a second reading for the list of policies that have not been reviewed by the board for 10+ years, plus JCB, which the administration wishes to update with a change based on recent court cases related to student transfers due to behavior and the required due process. And we will start with DED, disposition of unbudgeted revenue. Are there any updates or questions or changes on this policy? It has not been looked at or changed since 2000. Over 25 years old.
And administratively, it still feels relevant. It's not invoked very often, but if it were ever needed, it's there.
No? No. We will mark this as reviewed and bring it back on consent agenda.
Yeah, so with there being no changes, we can date it tonight as having been reviewed with no action. If we make some changes, we'll bring the revisions back, and then when those get approved, that'll be the revised date. Is that how we
Right,
did- is that how we did that?
that is correct.
Okay.
But it still has to come back on the consent agenda for the approval of the revision, or of the review.
I'm
date.
rusty. Is that how we did that last year?
I think so.
Okay. We can do, it's easy to do.
Are the ones that, only the ones that we made changes to, the ones that we had to approve?
So this is the first read,
This is second.
second read, okay. No, I
Yeah.
think we're good then, yeah.
I'll double check how we did it last year.
Yeah. If it has to come back, it'll come back on consent agenda. If
Yep.
it's just marked reviewed, then we'll just mark it reviewed and move on.
Thank you.
Next one is FB, facilities planning.
This one comes to you with some changes based on a suggestion during the first reading. And the first reading was from August. Because of our land purchase, we set the policies aside for September. So if you're thinking, when have I seen this before? It's been a while.
So on this one.
Yes.
I'm just gonna make a statement, I guess, more than a question. Why do we even have this policy? are we required by law to have a policy that tells us we need to plan? I mean, this just seems like common sense to me. So I'm cool with approving it or, putting it on the consent agenda as amended here. But there are some here that I'm like just questioning why we even have it.
Well, and if you don't need to update it for 25 or more years, maybe it doesn't need it.
It has not come into question in 25 years.
So I can ask that question. We do
It's not-
rescind policies on occasion.
I know,
so-
it's just, some of these I'm reading them and thinking, why, this is common sense. I mean, I would.
Common sense is not so common sometimes.
Well, in this case, it should be pretty common. So I'm just curious. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this. I'm okay with the revisions. I just don't understand why we need a policy for every single little thing.
Yeah.
All right, so you'll check on that.
Yep.
Any other questions? This one would come back as revised.
Yep.
And reviewed. Is it just revised or?
It would be revised.
Okay. Dr. Welly's gonna check. If
Yeah.
we don't need it, we might just get rid of
Well,
it.
then we'll scrap it. It's going to come back on consent agenda either way, either for you to rescind it or for you to update it with the edits.
Dr. Allen?
I do have a thought. So part of our M6 process, what we have to submit is all of our plans, and one of them is a facilities plan.
Mm.
And so my wondering is if they've got this in here to ensure that yearly we are updating or looking at and continuing to I mean, we can check, but that's
Yeah.
my thought. It is one of the required plans I turn in.
I would not, burn a lot of time. It's not that big of a deal. I do want Jason to speak into the mic that he agreed with me, because we haven't had that happen much lately, so if he could say that.
All right, we will check
Yep.
on that. The next one is FEB, selection of architectural, engineering, and land surveying. Services. Services was left off. Any changes to this one? This one was last revised in 2014.
Okay, again, I'm not gonna drag this out for all of these, but like, how is this different than any other vendor that we would select? I mean, we would always look for someone with specialized experience, I hope.
Yeah,
So-
I don't know why these three aspects of operation and planning would be called out. I don't know. But the fact that it was revised in 2014, I mean, there are some state statutes that are cited
Right.
here, and I didn't check them, but there's probably something in statute regarding these services.
I think one of the things with like architectural engineering and surveying services is it's not necessarily a lump sum bid. So this is typically a fee style service. So it's hard to select someone from a bid process. It's from a qualifications process.
Okay, that makes sense. I have no problem with the policy.
So I think that's why this one's in here specifically, because it doesn't fall under bid law. It falls under qualifications. That's an assumption. Dr. Welly can add that to his list to find out.
I like the way it sounds.
All right, anything else on this one? The next one is GBB, staff involvement in decision-making. And this one was originally adopted in 2000 and has not been looked at since. How often do you reference this one?
We follow it. Things usually don't make it past the first level. Like, if the teacher organization reaches out with a question or concern, we'll meet with them, we'll address it. It usually doesn't even have to get formalized. It's usually a discussion. So I think I like the framework of this so that if there is an issue that the leadership and the teacher organization feels like is not being addressed appropriately, then there's a framework for escalation. So I do like it. I haven't had to use it in my time.
We're going to say the Community Teacher Association also doesn't have a problem with it since they haven't raised any concerns.
I'm confident they are aware of this policy.
All right. Nothing on that one. We are moving on to GBBDA, Family and Medical Leave. This one was last revised in 2015.
And this one we use every year. It's pretty specific. It's very much spelled out and followed by our director of HR. So yeah, we would do our best to answer any questions.
I
But
think most of everything in here is probably statute driven as well.
yeah,
So if you want to make a change, it's going to have to go through legal, just so you know. Everybody's good with it? Moving on. GBCBC, staff absences and tardiness. This one was last reviewed in 2015 as well.
yeah, and we do reference this with personnel. Is this the one for excessive absences?
Yes.
Yeah, so we do have people who are disciplined for their excessive absences. So this one spells out what those parameters are.
Are there any changes administration would like to see on this policy? No? Okay. Everybody's good? Moving on. The next one on the agenda is GBCC, staff use of communication devices, and this also has some changes to it that were probably from the last read
Yep.
back in August, and this was last revised in 2014.
I really read this one expecting that it was going to need to be updated, but somehow it has remained relevant. Communication devices have evolved in the last 11 years, but the way this policy spells out our expectations is still pretty clear and relevant to me.
So, just with the current change, so that there's a stipend,
Mhm.
we have added additional restrictions, for lack of a better term, around. So, for example, it says that employees are encouraged to have a password. I believe that we have told them if it's a stipend, you have to have a
Yeah,
password.
that was something that was just discussed during an administration meeting is, in order for you to be able to collect your $50 a month or your stipend or whatever, the district is requiring it. It's not written out specifically in policy, but it is in the practices that we have.
Should it be in policy, do you think?
So I reached out to MSBA and Susan Goldammer, pardon me, on Tuesday, and come to find out she was at the MSPMA conference where Mr. Getz was. And so she called me in a moment today where I was out of the office and we are now playing phone tag. That was going to be my question for her. So there might be a slight change that I would recommend based off of the conversation with her. It also doesn't necessarily, it does talk about reimbursements and the way that, we provide devices, and now that it doesn't necessarily, that still is the case in very limited numbers now versus the way it used to be. So do we need to add something that is also referencing stipend as well? So those are the two things that I have for her. And the last time I left her a message, I let her know what I wanted to ask her about. So as soon as she and I can connect, which is hopefully soon, I'll be able to have maybe a slight modification for you on this one for the final read.
Anything else on that one? All right. GBEA, workers' compensation. This one was last revised in 2007.
I kind of put this one in the camp with
Family leave.
family leave. I probably wouldn't touch it unless the feds told me I needed to.
Well, they're not working. They're okay.
Yeah, so not expecting any communication from them.
Well, that one might be the state too, right?
Yeah.
All right. Next one is GBH staff and student relations. Last revised in 2012, last reviewed in 2012.
Yeah, this one we reference every year. So this one is one of the key. This is one of the key policies about being in the kid business. That we need to be really clear about our guidelines around the interactions between our adults and our kids. So this one is one of the key policies for that.
And
But
in use and reference of this policy, no thoughts or requests for changes to it? No?
no.
Okay.
So I don't know. I'm on page 2 at the very bottom. It says staff members are encouraged to communicate with students and parents / guardians for educational purposes using a variety of effective methods. We have purchased a system so that everything could go through one method.
Yeah.
Now, I think we also want them to be able to use the telephone, but it's all through Parent Square.
Yeah.
Do we need to amend that, or are we okay with that being general?
Well, I think some methods of communication are also still email, depending on what the item is that you're getting.
They are, but we're trying to,
Well, and it needs to be.
yeah. It needs to be email?
Yeah. Such as like IEP information, things like that. It doesn't go through Parent Square.
There are stipulations in here. I can't put my finger on it right now, but I know there are stipulations and other restrictions about the communications. So I know there's other protections in
Okay.
reference to.
Yeah, so when I'll reference, and I'll just speak about me, when I reference an IEP, it emails a code. The system emails a code to be able to get to it.
Okay.
I feel like the way this is worded still covers us.
Okay.
Because we have this specific tool in this moment, our coaching on our staff is we don't want you using these other 3 communication tools. We want you to use this one for your group communication. But to specify that in a policy might be a little
Yeah,
bit specific.
And we'd have to change it every time we change
Mhm.
vendors, so
Right.
I don't love
Yeah.
that. I just thought it was maybe a little too general,
Yeah.
but it's not. I don't feel that strongly about it.
All right. Anything else? No. All right. So we won't make any changes to that one. That one will. The next one is GBM staff grievances.
Yeah, this is a very important process, and we feel like this still spells out pretty clearly what the process would be. It's not invoked very often, thankfully, but if it's needed, it's here.
All right. Any adjustments on this one? So this one, we did make that change
Yep.
in the green, so
We'll bring it back in consent.
Yep. And the last one, JCB transfers within the district.
This one is initiated by the administration, and most of the policy still works very well for us. But there have been some issues around if a student is, as a disciplinary action by the administration, if a student is assigned virtual education, they are afforded certain due processes in that, and so we're recommending these changes to this policy to ensure that it's clear that if a student is being assigned virtual education, that can be done, but they must be entitled to their due process. We have to document that that we've provided them their due process. It's how we function already, but we want the protection in our policy and kind of the extra reminder that this is that important. So.
All right, any other comments, other questions on that one? All right, so we'll get that one marked as revised and reviewed and bring that one back. All right. You want to make a motion? You want me to do it? All right. Jared? Sarah? You, no, you, oh, you did? Oh, you asked for a motion. Oh, there you go, sorry. All right. Jared? Sarah? Julie? Jason? Lance? And I'm a yes. All right. Thank you for coming to the meeting tonight. We will see you next time.